So we just have to understand the life cycle phases, whether the component is loaded, whether the component is updated and refresh. I'm in mounting phase. See, even if it's an array, we can have n number of dependencies. It's updating. Even if I'm changing this, it is updating. The third one, unmounting phase. I am mounting, I am unmounting. Hey guys, a new day, a new video. Welcome to the channel KnowledgeKeen, and this is your friend Wasim, and today we are going to see important concept that is React's most wonderful concept, you can say, that is useEffect. So we are learning hooks, and as we have seen in our previous videos, if not, click on the link above. We have already seen useState as a common hook, and today we are going to see useEffect. Why it is important? Because it lets us understand how React is actually behaving, how virtual DOM is loading on, and there are a lot of things that happen behind the scene, and React useEffect hook lets us basically understand and help us in understanding this concept. Let's dive into this concept and see what exactly is happening behind the scene. But before we understand useEffect, we have to understand how React lifecycle architecture works. Okay, and to know that, let's see here. We just searched like React lifecycle architecture on Google and go to the images. You'll find there are tons of images that you can basically see how React lifecycle architecture is. So this is React's lifecycle architecture, but just understand this is not. We are learning functional components, okay, and we are learning the latest concepts, but still the principles remains the same. So everything is like based on the principle. This is class-based components. Methods, you don't need to remember any of them, so we just have to understand the life cycle phases like initialization, what is mounting, what is updating, what is unmounting. So these are like the life cycle phases. We are here to understand life cycle phases. We are not here to go through these methods. Okay, so remember that these methods we were used to use them into like old school class based components. We don't use them in functional components. I'm just making it very, very clear. Okay, and we are here to just understand this basic principle. Okay, we don't need to dive into all these methods. So let's start from there. From the very beginning, like initialization. So how the props and states. So basically how they are initialized. We don't also need this. Let's for now, let's park it. Then we jump on to very important concept, that is mounting. Okay, and under mounting there are like a couple of methods. We don't need to again see those. The most important in this also was component did mount, like how the component is mounted. So how the component is getting updated, and unmounting, how the component is getting unmounted. So what is this mounting, what is this updating, and what is this like unmounting? I just made some interactive kind of a slide for you to understand. Say this useEffect, okay, and useEffect also follows these three lifecycle phases like mounting, updating, and unmounting. So mounting basically, say a childbirth. Okay, so basically your component is rendered into the DOM. Okay, so just to understand those who are from the class-based component, those who have already studied class-based component, for them the method also I have written like component did mount. So this the behavior we can simulate is very relative to component did mount. So that is my component is mounted. Okay, so component did mount is component is already mounted means it is rendered into my actual DOM. So whenever the component is rendered, usually this method you used to run. Okay, so that is nothing but your mounting phase, and this is very important. Next, updating. Whenever any component is basically updated, like so let's say some property is updated, or like some state is updated, the component is re-rendered. So that phase is nothing but your updating phase. Okay, and this is very close to your component did update, which we used to have it in our class-based components. If you don't need to remember these methods, because as I said, these are not used in functional components. So we are just here to understand the life cycle phases. Mounting, the component is rendered into DOM. Updating, whenever the component is changed, modified, updated, any value is updated, it is re-rendered. That is nothing but your components updating phase. last but not the least, the unmounting phase. So here you can see like it is getting vanished. So whenever a component is basically removed from your it leaves your actual state, okay, your actual DOM, okay, that phase is nothing but your component unmount. Okay, so this is how this whole life cycle phases in actual work. We are going to see all these three phases using useEffect. Okay, so how we can simulate the mounting phase, where how we can see basically how we'll just print consoles everywhere and see whether the component is loaded, whether the component is updated, and whether the component is like unmounted. We'll see all these phases into this video. So stay tuned, watch this. Let me quickly jump onto our code, okay, and we'll quickly dive into the let's quickly like create. We always create a new component for each new example, and we'll say effect hook.js. Any name would do. We have done this 1,000 times now, but still we'll do this. Effect hook equal to, we are using this ES6 way, export default effect hook return h. Okay, let me just quickly do this, and in h2 hello effect hook. Save. We'll go to our app.js and we'll quickly like render this. We don't need the other ones. Okay, so we have our effect hook right now loaded into the component. Let me quickly close this, and yes, it is rendered. So let's see what react.js also reactjs.org also tells this. The effect hook lets you perform the side effects of a functional component. This is very difficult to understand what exactly it is, but we'll not do this. We'll simply go to KnowledgeKeen, where they teach it very easily. So effect hook, we don't need app.js, simple base component. Okay, let's quickly go through our console. Let me zoom it out a bit. Yep. So our first effect, that is whether my component is rendered. So use effect, we have to import it from React. Now the curly braces, remember we usually render React directly, and we import basically, not rendered, import. We import React directly, but we import it useEffect using curly braces. We should not forget it. If you do this, it will just throw an error. It will not work. Okay, because the React library, this React library, there is only one export default. So whenever there is export default, you render it directly. Whenever there is only export, okay, then you have to add the curly braces. For now, just for your basic understanding, or else people like start criticizing that you're teaching wrong. It's not wrong, it's just how you understand it. Okay, so the basic syntax of writing a useEffect is this. Okay, to make it more simple, I'll just add it like useEffect. Okay, the first parameter is a callback function. Okay, and the second parameter is an array of dependencies. Dependencies. Okay, so what are array of dependencies? We don't need it now. Okay, so we just need to understand that useEffect, we have the first parameter, that is callback. The second one is optional. Okay, you can like if you don't pass it, it will not fail. It will not start throwing an error immediately. And this was an interview question that was asked for me, and I usually asked it in the interviews, that what will happen if I just don't pass this. We'll also see that what it happens. So for now, the callback method. So callback method, it is immediately executed because it's an anonymous function. So let's see console.log, and I am in mounting phase. So whenever you don't pass any parameter to this dependency array, okay, this is simulated that your component is rendered. Okay, here my component is basically rendered only once, and when my component is rendered into the DOM, okay, this use effect will be called only once. Let me just go to the console and see. I'm in mounting phase. Easy. Okay, if I just quickly like do a refresh, it is still in, I am in mounting phase. So this is how my component is simply loaded into the DOM. Very easy, very simple. Let me quickly add a quick button just to show you that my nothing is changed. On click, handle click, we also have seen this, and let's say that increase counter. Let me add a count, use state, again use state, oops, count, use state, we import this from, we do not need again, we do not need this individual, we can just add a comma and that would work. Yes, so we can have multiple imports in single line, that we usually know. So let me add a const, my function, handle click equal to anonymous function. So we will just drill it out into our brains, like set count, and whatever my count was, count plus 1, and use effect, I'll just print it out here, count. Refresh, I'm in mounting phase. See, even my component is updating now. This is an update. When even my counter is updating, still the console is printed only once. But that is because we have not passed any dependency array. Okay, we have not passed any dependency to this use effect into this array, and that's the reason it is rendered only once. We can have another important interesting thing is you can have one or even you can have multiple use effects into one component, and that would also work. Okay, let's see. I'll write, oops, not confirm, console dot log, I am updating. Okay, I am updating, and let me pass our count here, because with each click my count is updating, my component is getting updated or re-rendered. So let's see, refresh. Okay, initially it set the value as 0, and that's the reason it updated, but with every click, see, it is continuously getting updated, and that is interesting. So we have simulated like when my component was mounted, so that is my mounting phase, and when we every time we are updating the component or any specific like property or state, even though we are re-rendering and we are simulating the updating phase, my component is getting updated. And this is the way you usually write an updating. You can pass n numbers, so that's an array, right? We can have any number of values or any number of dependencies. Now count is a dependency. See, we added like array of dependencies, so it's an array. We can have n number of dependencies passed to an use effect with each update. So to make it in a funny way, okay, so this dependency is like your use effect is like the neighbor wali auntie. Okay, so neighbor's auntie who basically keeps an eye on all the dependencies, and this is how use effect keeps a track of whatever dependency is updated. So if I can pass comma separated n number of values, and it will just keep a watch, keep an eye on all that dependent values, okay, on the dependencies. So whenever any dependency is changed, I'm stating it again, whenever any dependency is changed, that particular use effect will be called again. Okay, so even if I like pass another one, count 1 and set count 1, and on the same handle click I'm just like adding count 1 plus 1. So if even on the same thing I am just passing it another count, I can just say count 1, and again still it is going to keep an eye on both the dependencies. Refresh. If any value changes, it will change again. See, I'll just, instead of updating it here, I'll add another button, increase the count to 1, and here itself I'll just do set count to 1 to count 1 plus 1. Refresh. Even if I'm changing this, it is updating. Even if I'm changing this, it is updating. So this is the way my use effect will keep an eye on both the variables or both the state or both the dependencies, okay, because I'm passing a dependency, and it will keep calling the same use effect. I hope this is easy. I hope you are able to understand this. Okay. Last but not the least, okay, the third one, I already have a snippet. Okay. The third one, unmounting phase. Let's not, you can even write it here also, but I'll just add a new use effect for all the different phases. I'll just remove this and I'll just add console.log. I am unmounting. Okay. See, now this will be called, what we are doing, we are returning it from an use effect. Okay, we are returning anonymous function. Again, we have anonymous functions everywhere. We use anonymous functions. We are using returning an anonymous function from a use effect, and basically that will do an unmounting phase. Writing an unmounting phase is not compulsory, but it's a good practice that you should follow. We should clear up all our variables, values, states. Basically, we write our cleanup code in an unmounting phase, because whenever you leave a component, the component should clean itself, okay, and then it should leave the DOM. And see, I'll just quickly do a refresh, mounting, updating, okay, and how can we just simulate an unmounting phase? Let me see. I don't want to go into routing and everything, but still, like, it usually used to happen. Let me see. Give me a sec. Oops. And that's the reason it is not happening. I wanted to show you this too. I'll add a strict mode to my app. Refresh. See, I am unmounting. So what was happening? I'll just quickly do a refresh. Mounting, it started updating. It was unmounted, okay, and it started to mount again. Now you are seeing. Let me just what I did was React strict mode. React strict mode does some weird stuff internally, but let me just quickly console this. You'll see what is happening. Refresh. It is rendered twice. And most of you will feel that why my use effect is getting called twice when my component is loaded only once. Let's Google it out. Okay, let's quickly see a console.log, a Stack Overflow. Okay, here there is a lot of explanation, but this usually happens because of the strict mode. See, whenever you create a project, the project enables strict mode automatically, and this strict mode, even we have an explanation in our React forum. I'm not able to find it, but just to understand that React strict mode, it usually happens that it will re-render the component twice when you are in developer mode. Okay, so until and unless you're just developing, it will just do this multiple rendering of the components. But when you build a production, this will go away. Okay, it will just render only once in the production mode. So you don't need to worry about this. For now, you can just totally ignore it. If you don't like this, you can just install the React developer tools, and you can simulate the production kind of a thing. But that's okay for now. I hope you are able to understand this. I'll quickly do unmounting, and I'll just quickly do the unmounting. I'll remove the updating. It keeps on coming. So refresh. You can see I am mounting, I am unmounting, and I am mounting again. Okay. So why this is happening? because as I said that your component is re-rendered because of the React strict mode. So it started to mount, okay, but React was trying to re-render it again. So it unmounted and mounted again. So we also saw how this whole unmounting phase works. I hope this is like clear and simplified for you. I know that this is being a bit lengthier video, and we are going to use useEffect a lot in the future videos. This is how you can basically understand that how components are basically rendered, or which of your component. You can just put a simple mounting phase console.log, the mounting phase kind of a useEffect into your component, and you can see how many times it is getting re-rendered again and again, and you can try to improvise or write your code a bit better, in a better way. Okay, and this is how most of the developers do. They try to understand why my component is getting re-rendered again and again. It might happen due to properties, it might happen due to, there can be a number of factors for that. But I hope this video was like, I tried to simplify it as easy as possible, and we are going to see multiple things using useEffect and how useEffect is going to make our code even better, okay, and how we are going to keep track, like our neighbor aunties, onto our dependencies. I hope this video was like interesting for you, and if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe. Most of our viewers, like, they just watch and they don't subscribe, but if you subscribe, that would really help me out in creating more videos more rigorously. And the more subscribers, and I'm planning to go live once I reach a certain amount of subscribers, so that I can have an interactive session with you all guys. Please do subscribe, and please let your friends also subscribe, and please keep supporting. And thank you very much for watching this video till the end.